Now at 7, we are following breaking news. A judge rules President Trump illegally deployed the National Guard to help with protests in Los Angeles. We're breaking down the ruling in a live report. Plus, air raid sirens in the Middle East as Israel launches an attack on Iran. How this could escalate tensions in an already fragile region.
I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the Secretary.
Plus, Senator Padilla shoved out of a federal news conference with Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem.
This is CBS News Bay Area with Juliette Goodrich.
A lot going on this hour. We begin with breaking news. Tonight, a victory for California in its showdown with President Trump. About an hour ago, a U.S. district judge in San Francisco ruled President Trump's deployment of the National Guard to Los Angeles is unlawful. Judge Charles Breyer saying the president's actions exceeded the scope of his authority. He's now ordering President Trump to return control of the National Guard back to the state, at least for now. Our Kenny Choi is live outside the courthouse with the first reaction from Governor Newsom to this ruling. Kenny.
Yeah, Juliette, Governor Newsom addressing a large group of reporters just inside this building here on McAllister Street in San Francisco. Newsom calling this, saying that there will be a constitutional crisis if that order is not followed tomorrow by Trump. Now, Judge Breyer has blocked the administration from deploying members of the National Guard to Los Angeles. They directed officials to return control of the Guard to Newsom. One of the key lines in this ruling by Judge Charles Breyer saying at the early stage of the proceedings, the court must determine whether the president followed the congressionally mandated procedure for his actions. He did not. His actions were illegal, both exceeding the scope of his statutory authority and violating the 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution. He must therefore return control of the California National Guard to the governor of the state of California forthwith. Here's Governor Newsom and his reaction to the ruling.
Donald Trump has tested the limits of that and has done so consistently. But today's order makes clear that he is not above or beyond constitutional constraints. Those cornerstones that he claimed or asserted were not met. Section 12, 406, clearly there's no invasion, there's no rebellion. It's absurd.
Now, this ruling just came down about an hour ago, and we also now know that the Justice Department has already appealed this decision. So a very fluid situation with Newsom coming out, reacting to this ruling. And so we're going to continue to follow these developments throughout the night. Juliette?
Yeah, Kenny, thank you for your reporting throughout the day. Appreciate it. Now, a short time ago, I spoke with CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson about the significance of this ruling and what is next.
When it comes to Judge Breyer's ruling, it was based on a number of different factors. One, that essentially the statute wasn't met because the orders to nationalize the federal guard weren't issued through the governor's office. It seems to me that that's something you could cure with a different memorandum from the Trump administration. But then there were other concerns here that Judge Breyer had. He said, I don't think this rises to the level of being a rebellion or the danger of a rebellion. The bottom line here is a win for California, who was arguing that the Trump administration just didn't have the power to say, I want to pull the cord and federalize the National Guard against the wishes of the governor.
Again, the judge's temporary restraining order takes effect at noon tomorrow, allowing the Trump administration time to respond. And as Kenny mentioned, the Justice Department has already filed a notice of appeal. We will certainly stay on top of this. Meantime, we're watching the fallout after federal officers physically removed California Senator Alex Padilla from a Homeland Security briefing in L.A. It happened when Padilla interrupted and tried to question Secretary Kristi Noem.
To the rioters and to the politicians in Los Angeles.
The matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your
hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you don't my hands, go ahead, put them behind my back.
All right, cool.
Senator Padilla's office releasing video of him being taken to the ground and put in handcuffs. He says he was in the building for a meeting and decided to come and listen to Noem's speech. After being released, he called out the Trump administration.
If this is how this administration responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing throughout California and throughout the country.
For her part, Secretary Noem says she did not know it was Senator Padilla at the time, adding that if he had questions, he should have reached out to her beforehand.
His approach, was something that I don't think was appropriate at all. I'll let the law enforcement speak to how this situation was handled, but I will say that it's people need to identify themselves before they start lunging at people that during press conferences.
Secretary Noem said she and Padilla exchanged numbers after he was let go. A spokesperson for Homeland Security says the Secret Service thought Padilla might be an attacker and that officers acted appropriately. CBS News reporter Carter Evans was in the briefing room at the time, and he says everyone was caught off guard.
As he was being dragged out of the room by authorities, he said, "My name is Alex Padilla, and I'm a U.S. Senator." And they continued to drag him out of the room. It was unclear to most people who he was. It took a few seconds to register. Who is this? Is this a member of the media? Is this a member of the public, a protester who got inside? Turns out it was a U.S. Senator.
Secretary Noem said she wasn't going to let this incident or the wider protests slow the president's immigration enforcement. She was spotted alongside ICE agents at an operation in Huntington Park in South Central Los Angeles later this morning. All right, more breaking news to get to. Tensions exploding in the Middle East tonight, this time between two of the most powerful military forces in that region. Israeli military officials confirming that they have launched targeted attacks on Iran's capital, as well as multiple nuclear sites, although they have not said exactly where. The U.S. had been preparing for something to happen. The State Department recently ordered all non-emergency personnel to leave the region. But U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says tonight that the U.S. was not involved in the attacks. It comes as tensions are rising over Iran's rapidly advancing nuclear program. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel launched a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. As you can hear, their air raid sirens went off in Jerusalem after the defense minister declared a state of emergency. Netanyahu said today that the attacks will continue in Iran, quote, for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. We will certainly continue to track this conflict as it unfolds. We'll have updates on the air and on our website, kpix.com. Up next, an arrest announced in the looting of a shoe store in Oakland. The message from police ahead of protests planned for this weekend. And two Palestinians stranded at SFO after their visas are revoked without any warning. Details next.
The fog is beginning to reform and stream through the Golden Gate. Temperatures today did manage to warm up a little bit more inland, close to 80 in Santa Rosa and into the 80s in Concord. We're going to stay at about this level over the weekend, but there is more of a warm up next week. Details coming up in the First Alert forecast.
Local leaders are pushing back after two Palestinian men visiting the Bay Area on a humanitarian mission were stopped at SFO by immigration officials and had their visas abruptly revoked. San Francisco Supervisor Bilal Mahmoud says the two community leaders from the occupied West Bank were invited by an East Bay Jewish congregation to speak and fundraise for children suffering in the Middle East.
Some of our members were here waiting for them yesterday, and they never got through, and we are horrified by this. They had valid visas, and we want them to be able to come to develop a relationship with all of their friends here and to be welcomed rather than turned away and sent back.
The supervisor calls their detention an act of censorship and discrimination.
This is just an escalating, again, indication of the constitutional crisis that we are facing in our country right now, where even people on valid tourist visas, people who are here on interfaith missions and humanitarian causes can be denied entry and having their voice be silenced.
He says the only thing border officials did confirm to him was that the two men's visas were valid and were revoked, but they did not say why. Some state lawmakers were in Oakland today to condemn the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration and its response to the ICE protests. Our Kara St. Cyr has more on their message.
Bombarded with headlines of protests in LA and the Bay Area.
The people united.
as well as ICE arrests in workplaces and courthouses.
You're separating families!
Juliana Weiser-Leon's clients are living in fear.
Living in fear, it looks like not leaving your house, not being able to go to the store in peace, not going to work, and really living day by day, just afraid of what could happen next.
She's the director of the Newcomer Navigation Center in Oakland, an organization that helps immigrant high school students adjust to life in a new country, many of them undocumented.
Through the hotline, we're really, this is kind of getting very crazy right now. We're probably answering 50 to 60 calls per day.
Weiser-Leon joined state and local leaders coming together to condemn the actions the Trump administration has taken against ICE protesters, and most recently against U.S. Senator Alex Padilla, who was removed Thursday from a Homeland Security press conference and handcuffed, trying to ask Secretary Kristi Noem a question.
What happened to Senator Alex Padilla wasn't just disrespectful. It was dangerous.
Assemblymember Liz Ortega says these actions send a strong message to the American people.
They want to send a message that you are not allowed to ask questions, that you are not allowed to use your constitutional right, that you are not allowed to use your voice. And if we give him that, he wins.
But while she's disappointed by what she's seen, Assemblymember Mia Bonta says protests expected to erupt nationwide this weekend give her some hope.
This is our opportunity now to stand up and fight with protest and peace.
Oakland police have announced one arrest in the looting of a shoe store on International Boulevard Tuesday night. This video shows a group just ransacking the shop. Police say about 30 people participated, ranging in ages from 12 to their early 40s. The suspects all ran off, but police caught a 31-year-old Oakland man who had several felony warrants out for his arrest.
He was charged for possession of burglary tools, possession of stolen property, and committing a crime while out on bail. These are charges in addition to his felony warrants.
Right before the looting, police say they responded to a sideshow which led to an officer getting rocks thrown at them and a car being set on fire. Police emphasize this had nothing to do with an anti-ICE protest that happened earlier in the night. They say that gathering was peaceful and there were no issues. Chief Floyd Mitchell says they are also working with organizers ahead of planned protests this weekend, but will not tolerate any violence.
We have talked about it throughout this week with everything that's going on across the nation to make sure that, one, we provide the space for police for protests, but we're also not going to just allow the people that want to come into our community that are not part of our community to come in and cause damage to our homes.
There are multiple protests planned across the Bay Area on Saturday. They're all part of the No Kings nationwide day of action. And that coincides with President Trump's planned military parade as well as his birthday. Some tanks are already parked at a staging area in Washington, D.C. All right, from that, we're going to get to our weather. What a great tease for that one. Yeah. I'm usually better at my tosses. I'm sorry.
There's no easy transition for that one.
Well, no, I'm going to, okay. Well, I'm all right, take it away.
So let's talk about weather and how things have kind of evolved over the course of the past 24 hours or so. We have seen the fog taking a little bit of a break. Let's put a label on the map here so you don't lose your place. There's San Francisco, and we're still seeing the fog hanging out along the coast, but the current satellite perspective shows that it hasn't made any significant progress breaking away from the coast just yet. No significant intrusion into the inland valleys of the Bay Area. That's going to change later on tonight, but for the moment, we are still seeing a nice amount of sunshine, except for the immediate coastline. Again, changes are in store as we head through the rest of tonight. Let's take a look outside and take a look at our current temperatures, which are still, well, a little bit all over the place. Looking out from the top of Black Mountain towards the Santa Clara Valley, the temperature in San Jose stands only at 64 degrees. You were the one spot that fell a little bit short temperature-wise of what we were expecting for today. Everybody else managed to warm up a little bit more, made it up to almost 80 in Santa Rosa, although now you've backed down into the upper 60s. Concord did hit the low 80s. Now you're in the low 70s. It's still in the 50s in San Francisco. Hasn't broken 60 degrees in the city since the weekend. Better chance of that happening tomorrow, but not by a whole lot. Let's take a look at the fog as we head through the rest of tonight. And we are going to be seeing the fog redeveloping along the coast. It's kind of in the process of doing that. Not a lot until after midnight, though. That's when that fog is going to make more of a push across the bay. Some intrusion into the inland valleys, but not a lot. So what limited fog there is shouldn't last too long. And with that sunshine breaking through, the fog retreating to the coast already by mid-morning, our temperatures should be able to warm up to at least the same level that they did today. Check out tomorrow's forecast highs, and we'll start in the Santa Clara Valley. We're upper 70s in San Jose. We'll hit low 80s in Los Gatos and Morgan Hill. Those numbers within a couple degrees of average. Same thing east of the Oakland Hills, low to mid 80s there. But even the warmest spots staying well below 90 degrees. And that's not always a given in the middle of June. Temperatures mostly in the 70s around the bay, a mix of 50s and 60s closer to the coast, including 64 degrees in San Francisco, mostly 70s for the North Bay, back up to above 80 degrees in Santa Rosa, and one of the other warmer spots should climb up into the mid 80s in Healdsburg. Now, the winds are still going to be noticeable for the next couple of days. Let's track the every 6-hour wind gusts, and we are going to be seeing the strongest gusts in the 20 to 30 mile an hour range already by late morning and continue in the afternoon. Then once the sun goes down, the wind relaxes, and then the wind picks back up as we head into the first half of the weekend. So it's going to be a little bit breezy out there for any outdoor activities, and that onshore breeze keeps the temperatures either near average or within a few degrees on either side of average. We'll use Santa Rosa as our inland representative. You see the temperatures taking a big spike all of a sudden by Tuesday and Wednesday. That's not that far out of the ordinary for this time of year. Temperatures running about maybe 6 or 7 degrees above normal, and then right back down to near or even below average temperatures by the end of next week. So no major deviations from what's typical for the month of June, and no significant extreme heat in store for us. Even the warmest days inland are going to stay to around 90 degrees by Tuesday and Wednesday, and then backing down already by next Thursday. Let's check out the Bayside 7-day forecast. And while the warm up will be noticeable by Tuesday and Wednesday, it's not going to be nearly as dramatic as what's going to happen farther inland. Maybe a 6 or 7 degree jump up into the low to mid 70s for a couple of days, and then backing down already by next Thursday. And at the coast, what you're going to notice rather than a big increase in temperatures is a decrease in cloud cover for at least a couple of days, Tuesday and Wednesday. And your highs will manage to climb up into the low to mid 60s. We'll take it as we head towards the first few days of summertime. Jules?
All right. Thanks, Paul. Up next, Oakland following San Francisco's example when it comes to public safety. What we're learning about the plans to put up speed cameras across town. We want to get to more breaking news. California Attorney General Rob Bonta just held a news conference following this evening's ruling from a U.S. district judge. It found the Trump administration's deployment of the National Guard to Los Angeles was unlawful and ordering the Trump administration to return control of the troops to California, at least for now. So Bonta praised the ruling, saying the president and federal government's actions have only intensified the tensions in Southern California.
Activating these troops over the weekend for protests that were largely peaceful and that local law enforcement had at the time confirmed were under control is unfair and disrespectful to our service members. The truth is, the president is looking for any pretense to place military forces on American streets to intimidate and quiet those who disagree with him. It's not just immoral, it's dangerous, and it's illegal.
The Justice Department has already filed a notice of appeal. We will certainly stay on top of this. On to the debate over police pursuits in Oakland. It's certainly heating up. Activists are demanding CHP officers abide by the OPD's pursuit policies. Now, it comes after an Oakland teacher was hit and killed last month by a driver who moments earlier was being chased by CHP officers. CHP initiated the chase after a license plate reader alerted them to a vehicle wanted for felony evasion. Officers say the driver, 19-year-old Eric Hernandez Garcia, took off. The CHP says its officers on the ground backed off before the fatal collision. Under OPD's policy, pursuits can only be initiated over a violent crime or if they believe the suspect has a firearm.
You don't get to be here and do what you want to do. We have rules in the city and you need to follow them. We want full accountability from the California Highway Patrol. Somebody should say something. Somebody should say they're sorry.
The family of the victim, Dr. Marvin Boomer, says they plan to sue the CHP and the city for his death. Meantime, Hernandez Garcia faces multiple felony charges, including vehicular manslaughter. Meantime, Oakland is moving forward with its pilot program to install up to 18 speed cameras throughout the city. It's an effort to make streets safer for drivers and pedestrians. It comes after San Francisco installed speed cameras at 33 different locations across the city this year. Oakland's program still needs final approval by the Oakland City Council next week, but installation could start as soon as this fall once those cameras are up. The city says it would only issue warnings for the first 60 days. Then the fines would begin. All right, when we come back, the world's second most popular sport descends on the Coliseum. The showcase giving a Bay Area team its first ever chance to play in front of hometown fans. Major League Cricket games have kicked off tonight at the Oakland Coliseum, and right now the San Francisco Unicorns are taking on the reigning champion Washington Freedom. All 6 teams will play in Oakland between now and Sunday. The league CEO says he wants to welcome as many fans to the sport as possible ahead of the 2028 Olympic Games. On a day like this, I hope everybody wins and just has fun and is safe. Thanks for watching. The news continues at 8 on Pix Plus or 44 Cable 12. We'll see you right back here at 11 o'clock. Unicorns is a great team name. I like that one.